Alright, in this video we're going to look at cost behavior. There are different categories and ways to analyze costs for a firm. We're going to look at total cost, TC, fixed cost, FC, variable cost, VC, and marginal cost, MC. Each one of these terms will be studied individually, and then we will look at the averages for each. So for total cost, the firm will have the sum of fixed cost and variable cost. So average total cost, ATC, is then the total cost divided by the total number of units produced. So TC over Q gives us ATC. And when we think of the term total cost, we're thinking about all of the units that were produced and all of the costs that the firm incurred to be able to produce those units. And when we're thinking about average total cost, we're thinking of the cost of a typical unit. So if we put all the units we produced in a big bucket and we pulled one out and someone said, what does one of these cost you to make? That's what we're thinking of when we think of average total cost. Fixed cost are costs that don't change with the level of output. So there are things like rent. If you don't produce any units, then you don't have any change in your rent. If you produce 1,000,000 units, you still don't have any change in your rent. And fixed costs can't be avoided in the short run, so you're sort of stuck with them. And when we average fixed costs, AFC, then we're going to take the fixed cost for the period and divide it by the total number of units produced, and that's going to give us the average fixed cost, or AFC is equal to FC over Q. And what we're going to see when we look at a table is that average fixed costs decline with the number of units produced. Now, variable costs, VC, are costs that do change in relationship to the level of output. So if you don't produce any units, so 0 units produced, then you're going to have 0 variable cost. And if you're going to produce more units, then you're going to incur more variable costs. And students often think of these as the costs of the ingredients to produce a product. So average variable cost, AVC, is going to be variable cost divided by the total units produced. So AVC is equal to VC over Q. The hardest concept for students to grasp is this idea of marginal cost, right? And this relates to the cost of the next unit, or if we put it another way, what will it cost us to produce one more unit? So the unit on the margin, the very next unit. And so to compute that, we're going to look at the change or the increase in the total cost and divide that by the change or the increase in units. And so when we're thinking about the next unit, we'd be thinking of going from unit 10 to unit 11 to unit 12. Be aware that sometimes the increments on a table aren't 1 unit, which is why we have to bother with that change in the quantity in the denominator. So marginal cost is equal to change in total cost, right? That triangle is the delta, Greek letter delta for change. So marginal cost is equal to the change in the total cost over the change in the quantity, where the change in the quantity is often equal to 1, but not always. And so now watch the screencast called Cost Computation Table, and then I'm going to ask you to complete the table assignment and bring it to class and submit it to the Dropbox.